Welcome to the Breaking Ice podcast. My name is Josh Ferguson, and today I have the honor to sit down with Leon Andrews, or Andrew, right?
Andrew.
Andrew. And I've known you here and there for the last, couple of years or so, and we've done some work together. We worked on the Muskox project, and we did a Indigenous Peoples Day video with Northright, and you're just a super well-respected person in the community, so I thought it would be really awesome to come and have a chance to sit down and talk with you, get to know you better. How you doing today?
I'm doing fine, and thank you very much for recognize who I am and live here in Northern Wells.
Yeah, how long? So you've been in the Sahtú your whole life?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Sahtú has been in my life, mainly the Mountain Dené people, but ever since I met my wife to be, Ethel, I've been in the Sahtú a lot. So, yeah.
And just for if anyone's watching who doesn't know much about the Sahtú, tell me more about the Mountain Dené. Like, there's people from different regions here, but Mountain Dené are specific.
Yeah, Mountain Dené. The people that I remember, like my grandfathers, my uncles, and the rest of my uncles and aunties, they all talk about Central Mackenzie Mountain, because you have the North Mountain Range and then the South. So across the west of Northern Wells and Toledo, that's mainly where the Mountain Dené hang out in the high mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And they have done that for harvesting reason and survival.
And where were you born, more specifically?
Myself, I was born over there across from Toledo, a place called Tate Lake, as we call it, Tlokatenia in Slavey. That's where I was born.
And tell me about your childhood. What was that like? Like, it's so different from the way that we're living now, so I'd like to have you paint the picture.
Growing up for me was basically out in the bush, like a Tate Lake area. That's where our dad went fishing in the fall time for winter preparation. And they raised us in that mountain, the base of the mountain range. So you can see the mountain when you get up. You go to bed, still see the mountain. But at the same time, you can look towards Toledo and kind of flat area. And you can see Mountain Clark, too. And that's just up there by Saline River. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, those were different. Everything was done by walking.
Yeah.
You walk into the land, and by dog team, wintertime, it was very, very interesting. You've been brought up to be who you are, and you learn through your exercise every day. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting.
And you were, so people, you traveled by walking and you spent time in the mountains for harvesting reasons, and you talked about fishing. What kind of, were you guys using nets, and what kind of technologies were you using?
For me, when I grew up,
yeah,
our parents were using gill net under the ice, or when it's summertime in open water. And on Tate Lake itself, sometimes they made their own moose skin boat to get out on the water, and sometimes they would make their own canvas canoe, small one, to visit the fish net.
Okay, and so the moose skin boat is like a fabled thing. Like, it's so kind of incredible how you guys built that. But how many moose would it take to harvest to make a moose skin boat?
Well, for the fishing reason, at Tate Lake, they used two heights, long enough to hold enough load and carry a couple of people, maybe three. So that's what they use. So they think about everything, yeah. Mm-hmm. For the keel, like they use 6 moose skin, or maybe 8. So there was
multiple kinds of moose skin boats.
Yeah.
There was the ones just to kind of fish with, and then there was the one to travel with.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And how long does a moose skin boat last? Like, the traveling one with the bigger one only lasts the trip, right? Mm-hmm. And the smaller ones, how long would they last?
Not very long too, but the Mountain Dené are spiritual people.
Mhm.
They believe in biodiversity issues. Those are things that are there for use only. The moose hide and everything, they have to take it back, give it back to the land. And the hide, they would re-tan it and clean it, re-tan it, and use it for moccasin, dog harness, etc.
Oh, so it's not like you would use them for the moose skin boat and then they weren't useful. You could then recycle them into different products.
Yeah,
Like
the hide itself.
okay,
The wood, they return that back to the land.
yeah.
Yeah.
And how long did you live in that fashion, like when you were young?
Well, up to when I was about 16 years old, 17 years old,
Okay.
I started doing some work for other people. So up till 16, I was really active on the land growing up. And when I reached about 20, we started using dog team. We go into the mountain for caribou for the community of Toledo.
Mm.
And then later on, different things.
Yeah. And when did the routine of traveling with the mooskin boat, go harvest in the mountains and then come out in the spring, when did that kind of cease to happen?
The last one our people have done when they were all alive, back in early 60s, I would say, late 50s.
Okay.
They all went back into the mountain, and they built 5 boats then,
Wow.
way up there by June Lake,
Uh-huh.
and they all came back out. That was the last time they did that. And then it'd been far in between. They built one here and there in different times of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Not different time of each years.
And there was one that was done relatively recently, right? Like in the last 10 years or something like that. You guys built one?
Yeah, 2013.
2013.
Yeah, the Chief Andrew and the oil company Husky, they were talking, I guess. So they said, well, build one, we'll help you with the material, says the oil company. So they did that. And we brought some people from town up on the Keel ways, and some children, family, whoever interested. The idea was to help the young people, the little guys anyway, what a mooskin boat really is. So I think they got really good experience out of it.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like, that hopefully that tradition can be kept up here
Yeah.
and there. That'd be very cool.
Yeah, I think, for the cultural purposes,
Yeah.
those kind of exercise is really good. If you don't do that, it disappears and it's not recorded, and so nobody can understand what that is, mooskin boat.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like there's a document that helps you build one.
Mm-hmm.
It's all by knowledge and
Yeah.
and experience. And tell me about your parents. What was your parents like in terms of their character and how you were raised?
Well, my parents, my father, and my uncle Johnny. My father's name is William Andrew, and Uncle Johnny Andrew. They're twin,
Okay.
and their oldest uncle is Fred Andrew. He's the one that helped with the Candle Road
Okay.
exercise, not exercise routing anyway. They were very interesting people,
Mm-hmm.
for me anyway. They would tell you oral history story about things that happen for different occasions by a different group of people, mainly the Mountain Dené. And you learn from those kind of experience. When there's going to be hardship, when there's cold spell, how do some people get by? All that knowledge they provide for you, they were storytellers, or they take turn. My dad, not so much, but Uncle Johnny and Uncle Fred, they're like a movie. Tell you a story about way of life and how how to become knowledgeable about the bush, the environment, the water, the air, the birds, everything. Even the birds are calling. They know why they're doing that. They can talk to you like, say, there's something going on here. So you get to check it out, and sure enough, it could be a moose or a caribou nearby.
Yeah, or danger or something like that.
Yeah. It's very interesting how that works. So I've learned very much from them. From my mom and aunties, they work on hides. They learn how to do moccasin. They teach you how to sew. So you're out there on the land dead of winter cold. If you have some rip in your clothing, particularly your mitts and your moccasin, you have to sew it back up so the snow don't get in.
Mm-hmm.
So they teach you that survival issues too. So they have their own ways of teaching you as a young person. So you become independent when time comes for you to go walk in the bush by yourself in the wintertime.
No kidding. And what was the main like shelters that you guys used when you guys were living on the land like that?
Well, for us, like, during that time when let's say I was in the age of hunting by myself,
Mm-hmm.
it would begin somewhere like 15, 18 years old. But mainly close to your parents, or your father or somebody. And hunting was... Sorry, I missed that question again.
Oh, I was just curious what the kind of shelters you used.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, winters are brutal here.
Winter, we didn't have... sometimes we don't have extra tent. So we use lean-to.
Okay.
Yeah. So we try to stay away from the real cold weather.
Mm-hmm.
We stay home then. If the mild temperature, then we know we go out hunting and we use lean-to. It's much easier because to carry too much stuff for the dog.
Mm-hmm.
If in case you get a moose, then,
Yeah. You didn't want to carry as much of the moose back as you can.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So that was something that we've been taught to look after ourselves in a way. And we always try to have a good sleeping bag,
Mm-hmm.
or a couple at least anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And we were sleeping that in winter.
You talked about hunting on your own when you were 15, 18,
Yeah.
you were saying? How often would you go out on your own, and how long were your hunts?
Mostly if I'm going to be by myself, mostly it would be 3 or 4 people. We go out, let's say, out of camp, 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, and we would camp there and go up on a mountainside or valleys for the day by ourselves. One guy goes the other way, yeah. So all day I would spend by myself.
Okay.
And so was the other group too. Whoever ran into a moose, then the lucky one, then we have something. But skinning the moose is heavy.
Yeah.
So we were taught to carry rope with us. So
you could tie up the legs.
Yeah. So we do that. We learned to do that. It's kind of pitiful, but once you learn how to do that, it becomes a lot easier.
Yeah. And do you have any particular stories of hunting alone that stand out? Like, what was the most memorable hunt?
Well, we did a lot of hunting. The one I remember the most, that time were hard then.
Oh, that's okay.
Time were hard then. So, the one February, really cold like this, me and my cousin, we went looking for a moose up on the far side of the lake, up on those little ridges, and found. And then I walk upon one moose. I got a moose there. That was the most memorable one I remember, because there's not too much left at home for the family.
Oh, it was like a really important hunt.
Yeah, a real important time. The moose came in handy. We brought that back, And people were just happy. You know, the dead of winter, the ice were thick, very hard to set in the fish net. Yeah. I made a lot of people happy, particularly my grandfather and grandmother. They were so happy. Later on, we got to town. I guess Dad told us that kid did wonder for us. Some of the elders said, "We heard your story. You did good, didn't you?" I said, "What story?" "The moose story." I said, "Yeah, well, it just happened. It just happened to be there."
And how long did the moose last? Like, when you, I don't know, how many people would you feed with one moose like that?
Well, some people would have some rice, oats, and flour. So I think at the time when there was about 5 families there, and each family had a dog team, let's say five per 5 family. So yeah, at least you got 25 dogs. But they have fishing too, so
Yeah.
it helps them. But, so we all feed people, but it don't last very long too.
Yeah, you gotta,
Yeah.
25 dogs and 5 families, that's a lot of mouths.
Yeah, lots to go around, but still.
And do you have a favorite time of year from when you were living in that style?
Well, the favorite time of year for us is March, because you get out of that darkness
Yeah.
and it makes everybody happy. And plus, with the sunlight in March, you can see moose tracks or caribou track way up on the hillside. I don't know, that mirage just lit those tracks.
There's more, the sun must be higher, so there's more contrast or something like that. Because with the really flat light, it just disappears.
Yeah. I don't know, that March has a special air that makes those mirage appear. And they use, in March too, for the high tanning.
Yeah.
They would take the moose hide or caribou hide, they hang it outside, and it automatically gets soft by itself.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just because of the sun
Because
and the temperatures?
the sun and the air.
Yeah.
I don't know that, but I see them do that, and my brother tells me, my brother in Toledo, he said, I make a tan hide, and that's what the elders say that. He said, I do that. Yeah, sure enough. It get really soft by itself.
There is something about the March air up here. Like, even just today, I could feel it coming, and I was just outside today going, you can feel spring. It's like right around the corner.
Yeah. It's really good, like, for back then, you want to go somewhere like, let's just say I want to go to Oscar Island.
Sure.
That's a long walk, and that's a long haul if you got to move by dog team. March would come in handy. You can take your time, and if you got a moose, you can take your time.
Because you have more daytime, and you have you have a crust on the snow, and it's just easier traveling.
Yeah. You can camp and have a good meal before you went home the next day. But when you have short daylight, you got to rush all the time.
Yeah. One thing that I learned living up here is just how summer is actually more restrictive than winter in terms of traveling. And I find that, like, living in cities and whatnot, you kind of think of it the opposite way around. You think of summer as the time when you can go out and it's easy to move around, and then winter when it's cold and you stay home. But in the Sahtú up here, it's the opposite because of all the frozen lakes and all the frozen river. Is that wintertime is the traveling time because everything's easier to move around. And so in the summer, how much of, like, you said most of the people did walking and then obviously traveling by moose skin boat, but how big of an area would you live in and fish in the summers?
In the summertime or the wintertime, if you're going to go for fish on the river, Mackenzie Lake or lakes, it's summertime on a Mackenzie, there's different type of fish that migrate at a certain time of the summer. So the elders, they know about that. So when that month is coming close by, they get their fish net ready, and they would go to a certain spot, and they would fish there for 3 weeks.
Oh, you
4
just
weeks.
camp
Yeah.
there? Yeah.
Just camp right there so they don't go back and forth into town.
And
Right by, for Toledo, like, on Bay River, they would have lots of fish nets there.
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, so people can just go there. By those little rat canoes, the canvas canoe, they build their own,
Mm-hmm.
and they would haul fish from there.
And when you were camping like that to go fishing, you would just smoke the fish as you catch it?
Yeah,
So
pretty much.
preserve longer?
Yeah, pretty much that's what people do. But like again, if you have a dog team and you have a big enough family, you use up most of it
Mm-hmm.
as time go by. And summertime, you don't want to catch too much too because it would spoil on you.
Yeah.
So they're very careful on that.
Yeah, you don't want to waste
Mhm.
if you don't need to. That's very cool. And so when did you in your life kind of move into town more?
Probably after I was about 26, 27,
Mm-hmm.
I started more and more into town, do other things.
Like work and stuff like that?
Yeah, yeah.
And what work were you doing?
Well, I did a lot of work for Mackenzie Mountain Outfitters.
Mm-hmm.
They did for a couple of outfitters I worked for. And I kind of really enjoyed it
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a hunter and I like the scenery as well.
Of course.
And a different kind of game too, like there's all sheep,
Yeah, so this is deeper in the mountains
Yeah.
than you typically
Yeah.
would hunt.
and then there's a lot of other small game too.
Uh-huh.
And like talking back to the story about my parents telling stories about the mountain, things like that, and they're always in the back of my mind. And I had the opportunity to do that, so I want to learn about the mountain
Mm-hmm.
and the area that they talk about, and how. So I visit most of those areas in the mountains. That made me very happy. Anyway,
And did you meet people? You were guiding, right?
yeah,
With them?
yeah,
So you met people from all over the world, eh?
pretty much,
That's
pretty
very
much,
cool.
yeah.
And so is Dall sheep like a traditional food for the Mountain Dené, or not so much because it's further in the mountains?
Well, the last time I said like 50,
Mm-hmm.
late 50, that's the last time they went back out.
Mm.
So that group of people, they love Dall sheep.
Yeah.
And for us, I don't know, for me, like, I just enjoy Dall sheep automatically.
Oh, it's delicious.
Yeah. and the Mountain Dené, I can only speak for Mountain Dené. Other
Yeah.
people do too, but so they make their own dry meat. They they cut the meat in a way that meaningful, I guess, like a butcher would. You cut steaks and
Yep.
all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And our people have done that too with their own way meat. So they separate the hard meat, the muscle meat, from the soft meat, and so they know how to do the preparation. It's
Mm-hmm.
really interesting.
That's very cool.
Hmm.
That's one of the things I think it would be really cool to do is a video about kind of a traditional butchering ways, and then film it with traditional tools and whatnot.
Hmm.
How to do that. We did a video about butchering a muskox, and that was more just for
Yeah.
local use here, because a lot of people don't really like to eat muskox so much.
Hmm.
Okay, so then you moved into town and you were working with Mackenzie Mountain Outfitters, and how long did you work with them for?
A long time. I'd say 10 summer, maybe more.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. The previous owner kind of enjoyed what I do for him, I guess. So he kind of said, I'll leave it in your hand. You're doing good. So so that's where I get a little bit of knowledge behind me, I guess, when it comes to hunting and so on,
Mm-hmm.
for the big game.
Mm-hmm. And did you ever, make friendships with the clients? Have you ever visited any of them where they, wherever they live?
No, that just the one person from Seattle.
Yeah.
Well, there's several of them make comments, but this one particular one said, "Yeah, you should come back and work with me." It said, "I like your singing too. Maybe I can do something for you." But I never took him on that.
And were you singing, traditional songs, or what kind of singing were you?
Just country songs.
Just country songs?
Country songs, old time songs.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And tell me about, what was the rhythm like with the clients? Like, how long did they come out with you for? And what was your style of hunting?
Our style, well, we had horses, so we used horses to go from different locations. So we would start at one part of the area and then continue across it. And by the time we're done, we'll end up back where we want to be to take those horses back to the Yukon. Hunting, we're not trained for watching someone at the same time try to get something.
Mm-hmm.
We're not trained for that. But over time, we got good at that, I think.
About hunting with somebody else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be an eye for someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of the people, they hunted, but not too much or not here, right? So they wouldn't know how it worked here.
Yeah, it's very steep mountain over there, too. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are having a hard time going up the hill. But that's part of their agreement, I guess.
Well, yeah.
So they try. Yeah.
And would you mostly hunt? Was it just all three, caribou, moose, and Dall sheep, or was there other game that you would hunt as well?
They were hunting grizzly too, but that one.
Oh, okay.
That one's been cut off for a while. I don't know if it's open again, but yeah.
That's kind of crazy. Do you have any wild stories about hunting grizzly bears?
This is, we don't talk about grizzly as the Mountain Dené people.
Uh-huh.
Our elders always maintain, in wintertime when they're sleeping, he said they can reach you if you're talking about them.
Oh, okay.
So we try to stay away from that. Or better yet, they say don't mention his name. You can call him big guy or big animal or something like that. So through that kind of leverage, we do mention it once in a while, but yeah, they're not afraid of nobody.
They're not afraid of grizzly bears?
No, the grizzly bear not afraid of
they're not
anybody.
afraid of anybody. Yeah. But where the Mountain Dené lived, were there grizzly bears that you would encounter sometimes, or not so much? They were deeper in the mountains.
Back then, the environment, the weather was normal.
Mm-hmm.
What do we call normal? The forced cycle, just like clockwork, up and down like that.
Yeah.
So the berries grow, and the fish migration, not worried about anything getting washed away. And so the bear maintains their own food, so
they weren't really...
So they weren't really bad for them, so they don't bother you as much.
That makes sense.
Yeah, today is different for them, yeah.
So after you stopped working for Mackenzie Mountain Outfitter, what did you do next? Why did you stop working for them? It was just time?
Yeah, I think it's time that I decided to move on. At that time, I was back in town, and there's a company that does seismic survey.
Okay.
Said, you want to help us out there for a bit? So I did. So I thought maybe I'll do that for a while. So that's where I ended up for them too, about 10 summer or 10 winters or more.
Was it good living out there, working with the seismic lines?
Well, it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's really hard work.
Okay.
But you're out there isolated, so nobody bothers you except for the workers,
Yeah.
It's a routine thing, become a routine thing.
And so was that rotational work? You'd spend like a few weeks out in the bush and then come back to town?
Yeah, we do.
And how big was the teams?
Oh, there's about 60 people.
60 people. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That's a big. And you're talking about the exploration, right? Those lines that you
Yeah.
see in the forest?
Yeah.
Man, they're cut so straight.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. You see it come up to a lake and then it picks up right on the other side, like perfectly straight.
hmm
It's wild.
Well, they got compass, I believe.
Yeah. And that was obviously machinery and stuff. There's dozers out there.
Yeah, they used those. Cat
Oh, yeah. Okay.
was blade.
Yeah. And you did that for about 10 summers.
Yeah.
And when did
No,
you...
10 winters.
10 winters. Oh, because it's done in the winter. That
Mhm.
makes sense because it's frozen. It's easier to travel. And what would you, in the summers... Well, did you overlap? Did you kind of guide in the summers and then seismic in the winter?
Yeah, for a little bit I do that guiding too.
And then once you stopped guiding, how would you spend your summers during that time?
I don't know what I did.
Just hung out?
Yeah, pretty much. I went out to the Delta, lived up there for a bit,
Oh, yeah.
and that time I did a little bit of offshore work.
Okay.
At that time,
What was that like?
what they call Canmar Petroleum,
Hmm.
they were out there drilling on big rigs.
On the ocean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was different.
Yeah. Well, what kind of work were you doing there?
They're doing offshore drilling, so I
No,
was
for
just help them out there.
But what role were you playing? Were you...
Well, I helped the cook.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the big stuff there. Cheer
Sure.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild. And when did you meet Ethel?
Oh, that just recently. As time went by, I met Ethel on one of our keel trip on jet boats and so up there. And we brought supplies out there, and that's where I met her. Yeah.
Tell me the story.
Him and Steve Kakwe. I think Steve was the premier then. So they came up to join camp there. We know them, but we never really chat with them like people usually do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we met. And we went to this little area where we wait for caribou. We call it Caribou Flat. So when we got there, they came with the other boat. They were there at the same time. So that we had some tea and so on. And then we all went and walked for caribou over there. We waited, but we didn't see anything. So we came back. So that's where I started talking with Cecil. And she's an interesting lady. I find it right away. She has a knowledge about our culture and our people. And then I kind of realized, you must have learned from someone. I said, yeah, my grandmother. My grandmother is at London, at Sucker Creek across the river. He said, that's where grandmother tells all kinds of stories about the Mountain Dené. And that's how people live off the land. He said, our grandmother does that too. So, yeah, that's how I met her. And the other thing I hope she doesn't mind I talk about her. The other thing I really enjoyed about her is that, there's some elders around. He would go talk with them, sit with them,
Mm-hmm.
and speak their own language, her own language. And that's very interesting. Caught my attention.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've been brought up to look for those kind of signs,
Mm-hmm.
how people behave. And that tells you, give you an indication that maybe she knows something that you may heard from somebody, what those kind of interaction personality is. So maybe that's why I got along with her easy enough.
That's very cool. And how old were you when you met her?
42,
Okay.
43, 42.
And had you lived in Norman Wells prior to that, or not really? You'd spent time here.
I spent time here,
Yeah.
off and on, but very little bit. Spent time was mostly in Toledo,
Yeah.
and and my brother got a jet boat,
Mm-hmm.
so I put that in the water, tried it. And it drives good, so
Yeah.
gas were a little cheaper then, so let's try and test it out on the Keel River. So that's why we go up and down.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah.
Jet boats are. I had never been on a jet boat until I came to the Sahtú, and
Uh-huh.
I was on James McPherson's jet boat, and we did like a Sahtú tour, where I went up with him to Delaney, and then we picked up some clients, and we went all the way from Delaney to Toledo to here, and then to Fort Good Hope, and I couldn't believe I've never been on a jet boat. Right, I've driven lots of boats with propellers, and you need deep water to drive those boats, but I remember going up the Bear River with my mind was blown because we were driving over like 2-3 inches of water. I couldn't believe it. He's a cool guy. I like James McPherson. He's very talented in the bush, and yeah, I learned some really cool things traveling with him.
That's good.
Yeah. Do you get to spend much time on the land these days?
Yeah, every now and then.
Yeah.
Every fall I like to do that.
Yeah.
My in-laws and my brother in Toledo, they would go up to the mouth of the Keel.
Yeah.
So they always give me a shout, come on up, join us. So
Nice.
I do that. I joined them the last couple of summer.
Mm-hmm.
But last fall, we were up there, they said, let's go up the Keel.
Okay.
And there were some Wrigley boys were there too. Said, if we do that, we'll go with you because we want to see the country up there, but not sure. So I did. We went back up there.
That's cool.
Yeah, they said, we're going to follow you now. We feel confident. Let's go. Can we? Can we? Yeah, sure. That'd be good. Let's go.
And do you still hunt?
No.
No.
No, I if I have to, I'll get something. But
Yeah,
I got lots of help and young guys
for sure.
for them to get that kind of experience. So I'll just drive for them and let them do their own.
Do people come and ask you for hunting advice?
Not really.
No.
Not really. I don't know if maybe it's because they don't know how to ask. Maybe they're scared, afraid to say something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, do you find that kind of young people are like hesitant to come and ask for advice or hear stories, or what's your experience?
Yeah, I feel like I sense that.
Mm-hmm.
They're just a little bit shy and yeah.
I wonder how that could be, remedied. That's one thing that I kind of want to offer with the cameras and whatnot, and just kind of gathering stories for people and sharing them, because I think it's so important. And now with the internet and people kind of living all over the place, it's hard to kind of capture that stuff and share it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, are there any stories or legends that you grew up hearing that you want to share?
Yeah, for the record, we have a lot of warrior stories.
Mm-hmm.
We have a creation story. And then we have that Yamoria story,
Mm-hmm.
which are the creation story is interesting because when things to become what it is, the world we know, so things are taking shape, they talk about that. Wildlife got their own destiny, which area they want to live in, that kind of setting. So it's just something like Walt Disney, a story that's been told. There it is in front of a paradise.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Then the Yamoria story, the person that helped with the dinosaur, get rid of them because because it's bothering people. And so people can't exist with those.
With the dinosaurs.
So, and then we have warriors. All kinds of warriors. But there's a story about 3 or 4 that I know that fought for the country that everybody known to call the homeland. Yeah, so you can see up and down Mackenzie Valley, there's different tribes here and there. They all had their warriors, and that protected them, so that's where things settled. Yeah. A story about caribou masters too, moose masters and stuff like that. It's a very interesting story.
And which story is the one about Bear Rock with the beaver hides?
That one's a Yamoria story.
That's the Yamoria story.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's been there for forever. We grew up with that story. Different people have their own version, but the Mountain Dené too have their own version. And those beaver, the way the Mountain Dené talk about it, Yamoria was approaching Bear Rock, looking at all those dinosaurs. I guess that's my interpretation. That's what they call the giants being. And one of them is called Bitsaritele. There he was, putting his beaver pelt on the rock. So Yamoria came along, looked and observed him, and realized he's a friendly giant. So I don't want to hurt him. He's got to figure out a way to get for that giant to leave this earth. Then he thought a way, I can frustrate him, he get mad, and he'll go. So that's the story behind.
He frustrated him away?
Yeah.
How did he frustrate him?
Well, he kept bugging him, teasing him. Finally, he got so mad, he says, "What evil is bothering me? This is it. This is the end for me. I'm going away." And I learned this from, we always, the story of Mountain Dené, that giant, Bitsaritele, and it's somewhere up there past, around Fort Good Hope area. And the late Mr. Gabe Gauchon said that giant Bitsaritele, he ended up at Yalty Lake. He said that's where he passed away. He told me not too long ago, before he passed on too. So there's a story where how people's destiny ends. So it's already there for us. So you know what I'm saying. Our time will come up too. We'll be going down. Yeah, those kind of insight people have for stories, oral history story, it helps you think about your own lifestyle. How to look after yourself so your lifespan can be good.
And there's lessons as a part of the stories.
Yeah, it's all attached on all those stories. Yeah, I have written one. I lived with my brother to clean it up for me. But he got sick too, and man, he just didn't quite make it. Maybe this story about my brother shouldn't go on record.
You wrote one of the stories down?
Yeah, I did.
Which story? Is it the Yamoria?
Yeah. It's a long one. It's a long story. So the ones that I remember, I put on there. So.
Is this like a project that you want to complete?
Yeah, someday, yeah.
And what stage are you? How far along are you? Like you said, it's written down, but it needs to be edited or something like that?
I think I got most of it,
Okay. And is
the ones that, like I said, the ones that I remember.
Is it written in English or is it written in Dené?
English.
In English.
So the last piece that I was missing, about the Yalty Lake. The elder confirmed that for me. I'm very happy when he did that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So did you, when you were writing it, were you consulting elders and hearing like different versions
Not different versions, just from the Mountain Dené version.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's what I meant, like, other people have their own version.
Yeah, yeah.
And we have one, the one I heard from my parents.
That'd be cool to kind of like publish that. And
Yeah, my brother's looking at it.
are you involved in any work these days?
Today, I'm doing some work with SSI on the water issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I do that we have a committee from different regions up and down Mackenzie Valley.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them participate, some don't, but we got that committee we work with, GNWT, water strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And then to extend that file, there's what they call Mackenzie River Basin Board. Yeah, I work with them on behalf of the Northwest Territory region representative.
Okay.
And GNWT. So I do that one. And the other one I help with is SSRB, Sahtú Renewable Resource Board. I kind of work with and relate to wildlife, traditional knowledge, and so on. And yeah, so those two things I do.
And is it enjoyable work? Is it nice to do?
For me, it is.
Yeah.
For me, it is because it's. I feel like the environment is changing. What will become of our wildlife?
Yeah.
And our water.
Yeah.
It seemed to me like that's something to really, really have to concentrate on for people to take notice. Be prepared.
Yeah. And are you optimistic that our water levels will come back up on the Mackenzie River, or what is your sense?
My sense is that it doesn't seem like it's not going to happen soon, for lack of uncertainty. So I can't say for sure, but it looked like it is going to go down continuously. Yeah.
Well, hopefully we get some indication that, I don't know, lots of snow, or I guess snow down upstream and whatnot. But I've been taking pictures of the river with the drone to see the shoals and whatnot. And this summer I'd like to kind of do it once a week, and then from the same spot, so you can see the levels kind of go up and down over the course of the season.
I think that's much needed,
Yeah.
I think up and down Mackenzie need to do that, so we're all on the same page. So I think that'd be good.
Yeah, I was trying to think about the best way to do it, like technically, like trying to get the drone in the same spot every time, because it would be difficult to, kind of a tricky thing to do. But
yeah.
I'm gonna try and do that this summer to kind of get a record of it over the course of the year.
Yeah, last summer, I think we've been lucky that the rain can be trickling down there all summer long.
We had a fair amount of snow this winter, hey?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. You always telling me there was a lot of snow. Yeah.
Compared to last winter, I think there was more snow. Anyways, yeah. So, very cool. I'd like to, if you have any updates about your written legend or your story, I'd like to, I don't know, I'd love to see if there's any way that I can help with that. I think that would be really cool to kind of move that forward.
Yeah, I started to feel like, I'm getting, before I get too tired, should find a way to update it or do something with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what are some of your favorite things to do these days?
My favorite thing to do is go on the land, just be with a bunch of young people, and travel the river or something like that, camping. We get a moose or caribou, that makes me very happy. You know, you can do what you need to do, just relax and make some dry meat. Those are my favorite things to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a beautiful routine, and there's something so like real about doing that.
Yeah, on those terms, like the young people, they seem to know what they want to do. They just do it without being told. That's very interesting to watch. You can see they enjoy that.
Yeah.
So it's good when you're in that environment with a whole bunch of young guys.
For 18 summers and for about 10 years, I worked as a canoe tripping guide in Ontario, in Northern Ontario, and we would take young people on trips for about 3 weeks. And over the course of the 3 weeks, you could see them change so much because, you know, they're kids from New York or any cities around Canada and the States, and then they'd come up and they'd spend 3 weeks traveling on the land and doing hard work. And I think it was so remarkable because they didn't have a choice but to do the hard work, you know, because kids would be like, I want to go home sometimes. And the fastest way home is to pick up the canoe and keep walking because, you know, we're going and you got to come with us. And there was a lot of lessons like that. Like there wasn't anyone to do it for you but you. And by the end of the trip, you could see them getting strong and their minds were getting strong. And I think that there's something very powerful about spending time on the land to kind of sharpen your senses and make you appreciate what you have.
Yeah, especially here in the north, you know.
Yeah.
It's the area, the land, it's out there, you know.
Yeah.
If a person wants to enjoy, you know, it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Myself, like my experience too, when I was growing up, Dad did talk about the mountain. I want to find out. I almost walk back and forth everywhere. I learned about the land. It's interesting when you're walking, you can see things. If something doesn't look normal, it catches your eye, you have a look. Oh, okay. It's interesting. The land, you know, you can learn a lot from that. It gives you a survival skill.
Yeah, and it's the other thing that you get when you're out on the land like that is you have times of like incredible beauty and like joy, but then you get the opposite too, where it's like the hardest hardship that you can experience on the land. It's really amazing. I used to spend a lot more time traveling like that, and I do miss it. I do miss it now with little kids and things like that, and it's been harder, but I hope to spend more time on the land. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, once in a while I like going to south, but not too often. I still enjoy summer when you can put a boat in the water, camp somewhere, sleep on the ground.
Yeah. It really helps ground you. I think if you spend too much time with technology and working and you don't get a chance to go on the land, you kind of get lost. You know, and you need that time in nature to recenter yourself. Well, Leon, it's been nearly an hour, and I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me. I think that you have a really interesting perspective, and you know, there's not too many people like you who have that broad of an understanding of those ways of life. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, did a lot of hunting, like the tourism. Like I said, the guy trusted me enough to see that I can do that. So he let me run the show for him, and a group of people with me from Toledo, maybe 4 or 5. We did well for him, I thought, anyway. And the seismic part of it, too, I did I operated the computer for them. I don't know, it's funny, but, you know, there was an operator. He said, "Can you help me here?" So I helped him. And he has this instrument, I don't know, it's 120 recording channels.
Okay.
To do the seismic activity recording. So I helped him. Then he got sick of me. So I'm just learning too. So we went back to camp, and then our party manager said, "Leon, you've been at it long enough. Don't have to wait for him. Go back out there." I said, "What if I messed up?" He said, "No, you shouldn't. You know,
You'll be okay.
You'll be okay." Okay, crew, let's go back out there. So it took me 2 hours to figure it out.
Okay.
They're waiting for me. "You okay, Leon?" "Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah,
I'm
give me
just
a minute.
just give me a minute. I want to make sure I get it right." So finally, so that's what got me going.
Uh-huh.
I did that line for them. Next morning, the partner's still sick, so out again. So did more. Finally, he recovered, so that was good. But then they says, "Leon can do it. Maybe you can do things down south. You don't need to come back up here." So I did that for a number of years. My last job was here in '96.
Mm-hmm.
The last job I did in that whole shell play area, and that was it. I gave him no more. So I did two things that I really, out of nowhere, just there. It worked for me, and I'm happy about it. And the last part of it for the young people, I've been involved in politics with Cecil,
Mm-hmm.
and I realized that the people are in that group circle of politicians, people who would behave very well. Some of them would have a beer, and then that was it. And that brought my attention to maybe that's the best way to be. So I don't do that no more, too. So to have a bottle of water per day is good enough for me. So there's better, good life out there, that I think young people miss, or nobody telling them the difference between lifespan and the story behind it, why. Like when they're growing up, when young babies, they need to be nurtured to be healthy people. If that doesn't happen, then they get too old, and it's hard to bring them back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's been really obvious for me with young kids. And they're so important to spend good time with them and teach them. And kids just want to be with their parents, And it's been such a privilege to be a father.
Yeah, that's what I remember about my dad.
Yeah.
He would take me in the bush in springtime when it's warm. This is a small guy, but he would let me sit beside him, whatever he does.
Totally.
But I learned from the land, Yeah.
And just watching him too.
Mm-hmm.
My son he's turning 2 in this month, and it's crazy because we have a daughter too, and she's 4, turning 5 this year. But she was our first kid, so she didn't have one to learn from. But he watches her like crazy and learns so much faster. Like he's talking already. And last night he learned how to climb out of his crib. So that's good. Well, Leon, thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was really interesting to talk. And if you one thing that I wanted to do more, and I just don't know them though, but if there's elders from the long-term care home who want to come and tell a story, and I'd volunteer my time and have them on, and so cool. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, Masicho.